Welcome to the Legit Football NFL podcast. Brian McFadden here, co-founder of Legit Football. It's Monday, April 17th, 2023. The NFL draft is in exactly 10 days, and we are here to break down the need for every single AFC team. That's right, we're going to go through all 16 AFC teams and decide which need is their number one need. If you watched our live mock, you already saw us comment on a number of the AFC teams when Kevin and I did it last week. Speaking of Kevin, let's go ahead and bring in my partner in prime, Kevin Phillip Fox. We're going to jump right into it. Kevin started the pre-show without the purple light, and we unanimously said, no, you got to turn the purple light back on.
I just want to give a quick shout out to my mother. She critiqued my lighting. She was like, you got to look better, son, so I'm giving it a shot. We're keeping the purple though, Mom. I'm sorry. I'm putting my foot down on the purple. It stays. And thank you, Anthony.
Mrs. Phillip Fox, or mother of Kevin Phillip Fox, he did start the pre-show without the purple lighting. We convinced him otherwise. You can blame us.
I'm a man of the people. That's what they say about me. So podcaster for the people. Let's go.
Kevin, we are cruising along with draft month. Every single episode we're having this month is the draft. We had a lot of fun on the live mock. Actually ended up being our most popular episode so far of the Legit Football NFL podcast, to the point where we're definitely going to do another live mock.
Have to.
I'm not tired of it yet. I want more draft content. How about you?
I'm not even close, man. I was on a hike earlier today, and I tried to talk to my girlfriend about the draft, and she was like, listen to your podcast. She was like, I don't know if we need to talk about it on our hikes. I was like, okay, that's okay, all right. The line is drawn.
That was a very nice way of her to saying, I do not want to hear you talk about this anymore.
Queen.
Armand, our number one champ in the chat, he loves the purple as well.
Armand the GOAT, that's his nickname.
Hey, the fans say they like it. We got to keep it. All right, let's bring in our regular Monday co-host, Mr. Jimmy Ray from NFL Stats on Twitter. That's at NFL_stats. Jimmy, 10 days, close to the draft. Is the excitement level peaked yet, or is it still climbing?
It's peaked. 10 days away. Peaked. Absolutely. I mean, I'm just gonna ride this peak for like another 20 days, because 10 days after the draft, there's a whole nother kind of draft grading and seeing what everybody gets. That's even more exciting too. I mean, that's all I'm thinking about, honestly. So I can't wait.
It's like surfing. You get to the top, but it doesn't have to crash right away. You ride the top of that wave.
Yeah, I'm just
as long as that freaking thing will take you, and we hope that this wave doesn't crash for another.
Really quick, do you guys do draft day like parties? Do you guys get a bunch of good food, get a bunch of people, like watch the draft, or like what's your draft day routine? Do you guys have like a fun routine for a draft day?
Yeah. So last year I went to B-dubs with a bunch of friends and stuff, and I'll probably do the same this time. It was a great atmosphere, at least for the first round, and then the next couple rounds. Yeah, I mean that's all day, every day.
I'm a little too neurotic to watch it in public, because like I want to hear the commentary, like I want to hear the get the intricacies of the trades. I'm not usually on Twitter. I'm usually like super glued to Twitter, because there's like a bunch of reports about this and that and the other. So that's my draft day routine. What about you, McFadden?
So last year, I represented Legit Football. We sponsored a draft party in Vegas. I was at the draft in Las Vegas. Did some live podcasting, live commentary during the draft itself, which was a lot of fun. Shout out to the 49ers Rush podcast that I was associated with last year. This year, it's just going to be me watching it
show off
in my living room. We're going to take it easy this year.
You know what?
Maybe next year, go back to the draft, though.
If we could get enough of our listeners to petition McFadden to stay up and do maybe a live post-draft, might be an interesting idea.
I'm thinking maybe a live TikTok. We'll see.
The
thought has crossed my mind. But let's go ahead and get into today's draft content, because we do have a lot to get to. I mentioned today's main topic is going to be top draft needs from every single AFC team. We're covering all 16 teams today, guys, but we're just going to pick one. Lots of teams have multiple needs. We're just going to pick the top need, and we have a fun way that we're going to determine in what order we do that. But first, as always, let's start with our legit headlines. We just have a few to get to. We skipped them on Friday because we spent an hour and a half or more going to the mock draft, so we have to cover them today. First, Cardinals safety Budda Baker has requested a trade. Baker told the Cardinals in February that he wanted to be traded, so this is not news as far as a new item. It's more like it's now out into the public because he wants to be made the league's highest paid safety. The team has shown interest in making that happen, which has led or has not shown interest in making it happen, which has led Baker to go public with a trade request. He is a 2-time All-Pro, has played all 6 of his seasons with the Cardinals, totaled 111 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 7 pass deflections for a 73.7 PFF grade last year. The big news here is just like the Cardinals are just getting worse. Like we've mentioned this was the one defensive star they had, Kevin, and now he wants out the door.
It's absolutely brutal. And to be a fan of the Cardinals right now, you got to have some thick skin. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I personally, I would be a huge advocate for tearing it down, minus Kyler, of course, because there's nothing you can do about that contract. I mean, he's locked in. But I would be rooting for 0-17. That would be an ideal season for me. I'd try to get a bunch of picks for Budda because, do you really want to give the highest paid safety contract in NFL history right now when you're probably not going to be competitive for a season or two? I don't think so, personally. I'd be looking for as much capital as I can get for Budda and Nuke.
Jimmy, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler said on SportsCenter that, quote, a lot of teams have interest in Baker, specifically mentioned the Eagles as a potential fit. That seems like a Howie move. I don't know how much draft capital he would pay for a safety. He paid a 5th rounder for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson last year. Is there any other team, do you think that might be a good fit for Baker, Jimmy, or do you think the Eagles just make a lot of sense?
I feel like he could fit in with any team, but the Eagles kind of do make the most sense. And I feel like I was thinking about it earlier. They made a draft day trade for AJ Brown last year. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make a move for someone like that, especially with how their team's so good already. I don't know exactly what their cap situation is like, but I could definitely see him fitting in. They have somewhat of a need at safety. So I'm excited. That'd be a very cool thing to see, but that'd be kind of the rich getting richer, and I could see him going to a different team.
Yeah, I think, as Kevin pointed out, why, if you're the Cardinals, do you pay this guy right now? Even though he is currently the best player you have on your defense, you're not going to have a good season. You're right now have the weakest roster in the entire NFL. You need to accumulate picks. You need to look to the future. And if this guy wants to be the highest paid safety, that's not the future at a position that's not all that premium right now.
And 2 years left on his contract too.
It's really difficult to the rebuild thing when you're clearly a rebuilding team and you're clearly a sinking ship. It's like, man, because you want blue chips, right? That's the goal, is to accrue as many of those blue chip players that you can. But at a certain point in time, this is not the cycle for you. You have to be self-aware enough to know where you are in your life cycle, and the Cardinals are just not in a life cycle where they're going to contend for a championship in the next 2 seasons. And you want Budda Bakers to be good. Those are the kinds of players you want, but you're with your quarterback situation and the rest of the makeup of your roster, you're not going to be in that position anytime soon. So I say
literally have needs all across the board. You even have a need at quarterback right now because your quarterback is going to be out at least the first quarter, if not half of the season. And honestly, I don't even know if they're, other than financially, all that sold on Kyler long-term. So needs across the board. When we do our next mock draft, Kevin, we're going to do trades because I think the Cardinals should do everything they can to trade pick number 3. Let's go to your Bills and a little bit of DeAndre Hopkins. So I don't know if you saw this interview he did with Bryant McFadden. Great name, by the way. Yeah. But we both went to Florida State. Fun story.
Wild. Same time?
Yes, same time. So he was obviously on the, played defensive back for the Seminoles, and there is an athlete's cafeteria that they opened to all the general student population 2 days a week. And I went there, and it had a list of the athlete's name, and it said B. McFadden. I'm like, I'm B. McFadden.
You were so excited. You were ready.
To get free. Yeah. But they didn't believe that I played for the football team, so I still had to pay. But anyway, on his show, he interviewed Hopkins, and he did an emoji thing. He said, make a face for these 4 teams who you'd be interested in getting traded to and who you would not. So he said no to the Jets and Patriots and yes to the Bills and Chiefs. I'm just going to let you take it from there.
Yeah, oh my goodness. It's tough because 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, close to a month ago, I was already, I had already pre-ordered my Nuke Hopkins Bills jersey, and I had to cancel the pre-order. This is a joke, by the way. That's a little presumptive.
Oh, I completely believed it.
I was
like, yep, that sounds like Kevin.
I was thinking about pulling trigger, but you know what? I sort of have gotten around to the idea that it wasn't going to happen because Brandon Beane and, everybody's, it's tough to believe anything you hear around draft season, but there was a lot of, we aren't as in as they say we are. You can't listen to people, what they say on Twitter, yada, yada. So that kind of like put a lot of ice on the fire. Now it's the pendulum is swinging back around to, maybe DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, there's talks of him being cut. So it's like, if he's cut, I mean, and he can pick, it's more likely he goes to the Bills. I don't think I need to say how huge of a coup that would be for Buffalo to get a wide receiver like Hopkins opposite Steph Diggs. I don't even have to say it. It would be literally league breaking. They would definitely go to being the best offense in the league, and whatever it takes to get it done. I've been saying I want it done. I've offered up Ed Oliver and a third in our Be the GM episode. And I think that's quite the haul. Now, if he's cut and you can sign him, I'd throw a bag at him. I'd throw what you had left. I'd restructure some more deals to create some more money. I'd kick the can down the road for DeAndre Hopkins. That feels like a Super Bowl or bust kind of move. But that being said, those are always difficult and risky, and the Rams are paying the ramifications for it now. Lucky they have a ring, but if I'm Buffalo, I'd be hard pressed to say no to DeAndre Hopkins.
Jimmy, both the Chiefs and the Bills seem to have interest. I mean, why wouldn't you have interest in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins? But cap space is an issue, at least for now. The Hopkins is due $19.45 million in 2023 on his current deal. Obviously, that goes away if he does get released. The Chiefs have $4.3 million in cap space. The Bills, $5.57. Does this hinder a team like the Bills or Chiefs from trading for him? Do they just wait and see if the Cardinals cut him?
I mean, absolutely. 19 mil, that's a lot of money. I mean, we saw OBJ get 15 mil, and people were like, whoa, that's a lot of money. 15 mil guaranteed, I believe, right?
Up to 18, but 15
Way
guaranteed.
too much.
Correct.
Yeah, up to 18 mil. Yeah,
for a team that doesn't even have a quarterback at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, position like wide receiver, it's kind of tough to say, hey, I'm going to pay 19 mil to this guy when, I mean, you have Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball. So not that it doesn't necessarily matter who's running the ball, but it definitely kind of hinders the reality there that you should pay top money for a wide receiver like that when there's a lot of other options. They're talking high on Justin Ross, things like that, just those cheaper options and seeing what they can do in that aspect. But it seems like the Bills have been at the point where they're going to get another wide receiver at some point. So that could be happening. Maybe it's just Kevin getting the best of me here. I've been listening to him for too long, but
there you go.
But I'm on it too, though. I'm like Gabe Davis is fine. He's no DeAndre Hopkins, though. I don't care if Hopkins is older and has a little bit of injury issues. Your ceiling goes way up on that Bills offense, not just because you're adding a guy of that caliber, future, potential Hall of Fame wide receiver, but what does that free up for Stephon Diggs? Right? So it just can have ramifications across your offense. Crazy. What does that do as a red zone target for Josh Allen? So I just think it benefits up and down the board for that Bills team.
It's like I said, it's almost league breaking. It would feel sort of like how they got Von Miller last year. It would be like the next of the what are they called? Infinity Stones. It would be the next of the Infinity Stones for Buffalo.
Yeah.
If they,
I like it.
If they secure DeAndre
anytime
Hopkins,
you want to bring in Marvel and MCU references, I'm here for it.
I got you. I think that would be like the Thanos dropping the last one in and then just like being overpowered gif. I think that's. But I mean, the thing is, and this is why Steph Diggs is on the Scorched Earth tour. How many of those can you get and then not get a chip? I mean, if they get DeAndre Hopkins, I believe Super Bowl or bust is a fallacy. I believe that the goal should be to stay as good as you can for as long as you can and hope to get lucky. But that would be like the kind of thing where it's like, man, how do you explain losing the division round?
No one in that Bills Mafia fan base would expect anything less from at least an appearance in the Super Bowl.
It would be very, very difficult to stomach if they got nuked and then didn't.
And we saw what happened to Thanos, right? He got all those Infinity Stones, and then the power got to his head. So who knows? Maybe that would happen to a team that's so good that just
he won the Super Bowl and he went and retired on a tropical planet. So it ended up catching up to him later, but at least he won.
In time and lost the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Thanos is what did it cost you? Everything, right? That's Thanos, right?
Yes, correct.
That could be Buffalo. That could be We'll see.
Everything.
The Rams are dealing with that now. They're on the tropical beach right now, and so it's tough. It's a tough thing, but I'll
love
say
this.
Just to be clear,
Great
I do also believe the same thing for the Chiefs. If they get nuked, it's the same story. They're already Super Bowl champs, and they didn't get considerably worse apart from losing their franchise tackle. I mean, if they get Nuke, it's the same story. They should be Super Bowl favorites at that point, I think.
They're already Super Bowl favorites. As long as they have Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce, they're Super Bowl favorites. So
that's exactly.
Let's tackle one more legit headline before we jump into our main topic. Vikings general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, Osiford is the new GM for the Cardinals, when asked if Dalvin Cook will be on the roster this upcoming season, said, quote, "Conversations are always ongoing with him. We're trying to be solutions-oriented and always trying to put the roster together within our constraints." That, my friends, is not a commitment of any kind. There's been a lot of rumors, Jimmy, about the Dolphins were apparently in trade talks with him at some point, couldn't come up with the compensation. ESPN's Kevin Seifert tweeted that it's reasonable to assume the Vikings plan to move on from Cook. A post-June 1 release or trade would save the Vikings $11 million in cap space. Jimmy, is this smoke, or do we think that Dalvin Cook's days as the starting quarterback of the Vikings are coming to an end?
I mean, it's so easy to be like, yeah, he's our guy. That's what people do all the time, right? They're like, hey, what do you think of this guy? Oh, he'll be on our team, and then he gets traded the next day. Like that's so easy to do. That happens all the time. That's why you can't trust all the things that GMs and stuff say to the media, because I mean they're working behind the scenes, and if a deal gets done, so be it. But yeah, Dalvin Cook's kind of an aging running back, and with his contract, they might be looking to get rid of that, and it kind of makes sense for them. And if they feel like Alexander Mattison could step in and make that role, or somebody else, then by all means, running back is one of those positions where you can kind of you can live without it in some ways, but I mean, Dalvin Cook, he's still getting those 1,000 yards every year, so it's hard to be like he's done for. It's kind of like a move before the he starts degrading as a running back.
Kevin, we heard from Bengals GM Duke Tobin when asked about trading T. Higgins earlier. He's like, "No, we're not in the habit of trading away our best players. Like, you go get your own T. Higgins." Like, that's about as definitive as a defense as you can get. Yeah, this is the opposite of that. I don't think it's smoke. What about you?
Oh yeah, no, I we've been saying on this show that I think there's a non-zero, but it's like it's less than 10% chance that Dalvin Cook plays for the Vikings next year, and I think Dalvin Cook's a good piece. I think the Vikings are getting out ahead of the letting the running back fall off the cliff while under a big contract that we've seen the Cowboys have to eat that situation with Zeke. I think the Vikings are just a year ahead on it, and they're just not going to let him play out his days, which is not a bad financial decision. It's a little difficult because he's been such a presence for them for such a long time. So it's kind of hard to it's always a bit unceremonious the way running backs are disregarded these days, like Woody in Toy Story. It's just the next chapter. You know what I'm saying? Like
the pop culture references, analogies. I love it.
I don't know what it is.
I mean, Vikings is written on his boot at the bottom, isn't it?
Literally
written on the cleats. Right.
So I mean, right side of the bed today, boys.
Yeah.
Let's keep
but
rolling.
Listen,
we should make this a thing, Kevin. Just you need to find pop culture references for whatever points you're trying to make now.
Let's do it.
It's just coming out of me like water. I don't get it, but I think he's unfortunately as good as gone, and that's fine because I think he can have a very productive second leg of his career as a change of pace back for maybe a championship contending team. I'd love to see Dalvin Cook in a third down role or a power back role on a team that's competitive. How cool would that be if he didn't have to have 20 carries a game and carry the load for an offense? I think that would be a really nice role for him at this stage of his career.
I will say, I think a cut is more likely than a trade at this point. I don't think a team is going to be paying for a running back with that kind of salary. They'd rather just know that he's going to get released, sign him for cheaper.
Armand, I absolutely love this. There were talks of this earlier in the offseason. I think it would be out of control. I think it would be so cool if Dalvin Cook was a Bill. Him and James Cook have such great chemistry. I've seen all their workout videos and all their they do a lot of brotherly love.
Did we say this on the show before? But their names are flip-flopped.
So funny. Yes,
Dalvin James Cook and James Dalvin Cook.
That is just the meanest thing to do to your kids. But
parents are just like, well, it worked the first time. Let's just switch it.
I kind of like it.
So, yeah, it was bullying at birth, but it united them through the trauma for sure.
Is there a third child in there somewhere that just has a random name?
Cook.
Oh yeah, really? They would feel completely left out.
Cook James Cook. I don't know.
Cook James Cook. Cook James Dalvin Cook. All right, that seems like a good time to go ahead and get off our legit headlines and transition to our
main topic. Let's go.
I always try to give Anthony enough lead in so he knows where I'm heading with that for the drop. As we mentioned for our main topic today, we're going to be diving into the number one, guys, just one top draft need for all 16 AFC teams. We will do the NFC on Friday with Adrian. I think he's already feeling better, so looking forward to that. How we're going to do it is pretty interesting, though. So we're going to have Anthony has come up with a randomizer, like a spin your wheel, just like Kevin, you and I did for the draft order.
That was cool.
And instead of just going around the horn and me and Kevin and Jimmy, we're going to have this thing where Anthony will hit the button. Whatever team it lands on, we have already divvied up who it is. There are 3 of us, 5 teams each, and 1 wild card that's going to go to Anthony. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this party started. Anthony, spin the wheel.
Let's go.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Me too. I'm terrified.
Of course.
Okay, there we are.
As if we haven't talked about the Baltimore Ravens enough. So that falls under Mr. Jimmy Ray.
Oh, no, that's me.
That is you.
All right, I'm going to start it off strong. All right, the Ravens. Well, they disappeared. Oh, nice. Sorry, I was just looking at the wheel. I didn't notice they would disappear. That works
Anthony
out great.
brought his A in.
I was wondering how that
just
would
throw
work out.
there.
Yeah,
You're not
too
on
good. Just
YouTube Live.
the
You're
Ravens
not on
got selected, and then it has like a whole applause thing, and then it like resets. But it is the Ravens. Yeah. Jimmy, you're up first. Number one draft need for the Baltimore Ravens.
All right. So the Ravens only have 2 picks in the first 86 picks in the draft this year. So not a lot of draft capital at that beginning stage in days 1 or 2 to kind of work with. And we did just talk about OBJ a little bit ago, and we'll kind of go to that same position at wide receiver. Listen, signing OBJ, absolutely great. Could it work out this year? Maybe if they have Lamar. Is it a long-term solution for them at that position? Absolutely not. Right? So
that's why we didn't answer. Like that's a rortorical question.
Yeah. You guys know. Yeah, I was waiting. I was like, are they going to answer? But that's fine.
Nope.
That's fine. We're going to keep it going. But yeah, Bateman, Beckham, and James Proche. None of them have surpassed 515 yards in a season over the past three years. So that's a big problem there. I mean, Rashad Bateman. There's been some injuries and stuff there, obviously, and Rashad Bateman could come out. James Proche could have a breakout year. Any of them could. But putting capital into that position,
I could have a breakout years. Put me on the Ravens.
Yeah. Brian McFadden could have a great. I mean, that name just rings wide receiver number 1.
It's got
so
NFL caliber. Bryant McFadden. So
give him a couple hundred targets, he's going to catch at least 15 of them. We're going to make it happen. So
that's it.
Put him on the Ravens,
and at least one first down. So.
Yeah, but seriously, I mean, Mark Andrews is there. The wide receiver situation in the Baltimore has been kind of an issue for years, and can they, with pick number 22, can they solve it? Hopefully, but you kind of have to take that hit. Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison. I mean, they finished dead last in receiving yards by wide receivers last year. So just I feel like that's one of the biggest needs for them. Obviously, if they lose Lamar, that's the kind of change of the game. They need a quarterback, but you're not going to get a. We'll see what happens if something happens before then. But I don't foresee anything changing yet.
I think
the right way to approach it is to do what they need now. It's just so much uncertainty around the Lamar thing. I can't argue with that.
I think I think you nailed it. And I don't know if you guys saw or if we covered this on Fridays, but Lamar's actual exact words apparently were, you guys want to sign me, get me OBJ and DeAndre Hopkins, and then we'll talk. Yeah. So OBJ by himself, I believe Harbaugh said, we'll get you one and we'll see about the other. So it's very interesting when it comes to the other one, because he wanted both, and he already has Bateman and he already has Mark Andrews. So I mean, you're right, Jimmy. Theoretically, if he wanted 2, studs added to the room, he got, I'll say, a half a stud or 3/4 of a stud in OBJ. We'll see about DeAndre or drafting a wide receiver. I could definitely see like Quentin Johnston being a Raven,
maybe
something along those lines, like a player like that, or a Jordan Addison type. Yeah,
and will this help like Lamar make the decision? I have no idea, especially with like the Jalen Hurts contract that happened this year. Shorty W. Okay, she's a wide receiver. Awesome. Shout out.
Is a wide receiver.
Baltimore needs receivers. Let's do it.
All right, let's move on after that. I'm done talking.
Right.
Yeah, we found the top need, and She is in our chat right now. All right, Anthony, let's go ahead and spin the wheel. Who is our next AFC team that we're going to say the top draft need for?
The silence is deafening right now.
Oh, I love it. I'm stressed.
Is it stopping on the New England Patriots?
Yep.
All right, here we go again.
Jimmy again?
That's Jimmy again. Jimmy goes twice in a row.
Listen, with my luck,
we're getting our money's worth from Jimmy Ray today.
Yeah. Listen, New England Patriots. I think I talked about this like a month or two ago in terms of like I think I was the GM for a little bit. And I was like, what do they need to draft most? And I said, hey, they need to maximize Mac Jones. I'm going to stick to that. I'm going to go a tackle here. They signed Riley Reif, but they haven't had a lot of consistent play. Trent Brown had a lot of penalties. Isaiah Wynn had a lot of penalties. They picked up his fifth-year option last year. They all made a lot of money, but they weren't able to have some consistent play to protect Mac Jones and kind of help their offense as a whole. We saw Mac Jones struggle in the pocket a lot last season, and hopefully having a star left tackle or even, get a tackle on either side of the ball, just make it happen. But left tackle is obviously the most crucial one. I think that'd be pretty interesting at pick number 14 for him. The biggest need for the pass is a GM. Well, they have Billiam Belichick, but that's fair.
Billiam.
That's fair.
Billiam's
Wait,
man.
Billiam Belichick has not been hitting on those first round picks in recent years, so
No, absolutely not. But
maybe
hopefully, they also
there.
had offensive coordinator Matt Patricia last year, so hopefully getting rid of him and putting in Bill O'Brien again, that might help out a little bit in terms of the scheme and kind of who they draft. Hopefully, but yeah, you're not wrong in that aspect. But
the couple of years of disarray for the Pats has been unbelievably fun to watch for all the AFC East fans who got little broed by them for 20 years.
2 decades of misery.
I only knew
have you seen
growing up?
Have you seen Darnell Wright too? Some of his film and stuff. He's huge, and I think he's an athletic guy.
I think I put him. He was the first tackle that went off our board on our mock draft, right? I put him. Who did I put?
Where'd you guys put him at?
I don't remember. I have the
I'll be close to the Patriots at least.
Jimmy, I love the call of tackle being their biggest need. I think you could make a case for a lot of positions for the Patriots. They're kind of, like I said, the disarray is kind of. We have Darnell Wright at 13 to the Jets.
13 to the Jets. That's right. Armand's Jets. Yeah, Paris Johnson went to the Titans at 11. Yeah.
Okay.
As well.
So Paris Johnson.
Oh, so
was
third
Paris
tackles.
Johnson the first one?
Yeah, there's a lot
No,
of great tackles.
Skoronski went to the Bears at 9.
Okay.
Paris Johnson went to the Titans at 12, and then Darnell Wright 13 to the Jets.
Yeah, I could see an offensive tackle kind of run happening early on.
We put
teams.
Broderick Jones, so we put a tackle with the Patriots in our mock.
That's right. Yeah, that was such a fun exercise. I'm telling you, I'm
gonna have to go back and watch that video.
Yeah, we need a panel.
Sounds like
Jimmy, you didn't watch it already.
Oh no!
I'm just kidding.
My full-time job got in the way, but here I am.
I think you nailed it, though. I think you nailed it on the head. Pats, they need a tackle, and like I said, there's so many things you could say they need. Despite the spending spree a couple years ago, which we'll mock Belichick for that until the end of time, but it feels like they still have a hole at receiver, even though they spent $100 million on it a couple years ago with Bourne and Aguilar. They drafted N'Keal Harry not too long ago. Already traded him out of town.
There's a lot of names that didn't work out. Yeah.
But what wide receiver are you going to draft at 14? Like JSN's going to be gone.
That would probably
and even if you get JSN,
back.
He's not. You just got Juju. Yeah. So
it's not that. Well,
it's got to be tackle. It's got to be tackle for the Patriots.
I think even with having Juju, JSN's at 14. You think about it, right?
You get 2 slot receivers and no outside receivers.
I think JSN can play outside. I think he's got the slot profile, but I think he can play outside.
Okay. I feel like with that talent at that draft spot, you might need to at least consider it.
Right.
Make it happen.
But yeah,
possibly,
it'll be interesting. It seems like team trade back for receiver is the way to go if you're going first round receiver. It seems like getting as late in the first as you can. But
if you're not going to go tackle, if you're going to go pass catch,
but I think tackle is the runaway for the most glaring need that they have.
All right, which team am I doing next?
Because Anthony, let's roll it again. It'd be funny if Jimmy just gets all his 5.
All Jimmy.
Yeah.
Can I leave after that, or do I have to listen? No, I'm just kidding.
He's like, I've done my 5. I don't want to hear you jokers talk about these other teams.
Armand's in the chat like this is fixed.
Here we go.
It could be Anthony made this thing. I don't know if it's fixed or not.
No way.
Is that Jimmy?
Oh, that's Jimmy Ray with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Jimmy, you're killing it, man. You're on
He's
the roll.
gone.
He's gone.
He left. We lost him.
I mean, the Chiefs just have so many needs.
Do you need a drink of water? Do you need to take a breather before you there you go. You're in the third quarter now.
This is talent abuse.
Do we have any ads? Do we have any ads, Anthony?
Yeah, where's the ad run?
Yeah, drink your water, everybody. Stay hydrated. Summer's almost
break.
here.
If you're listening to the podcast, take a sip of water. This is your reminder.
If you don't have any water, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Honestly. Like, come on. Anyways, okay. So the Chiefs need a water boy. That's really the only position they need at that point.
Jimmy Rigged.
No, but seriously, at pick number 31, so the last pick, Jimmy's new name is Jimmy Rigged. Armand, that's fair. I have a lot of nicknames, and that might be a top.
Jimmy Rigged.
Jimmy Rigged.
It kind of flows well. All right, so the Chiefs had the last pick in the draft, number 31. For those who are confused, there was a team that lost a pick, unfortunately. I won't say any names. We'll just keep it moving.
You can say we talked about it on Friday's mock. Yeah.
Miami Dolphins. Okay, let's keep it moving. All right, so the Chiefs, I have pass rusher for them as one of their biggest needs. They obviously have a lot of draft positions. I was kind of going between that and maybe a wide receiver. But wide receiver, I mean, once again, I talked earlier about Patrick Mahomes. He can kind of make it happen. He's talking big on these young wide receivers, maybe Sky Moore, maybe Justin Ross. But they did lose a couple wide receivers. But I'm not too worried about that, especially at that pick. They could pick Quentin Johnson. Anyways, pass rusher, they lost Frank Clark, Carlos Dunlap. They combined for 44 pressures and 9 sacks last season. And they have an inside pressure with Chris Jones, but that outside pressure, they have George Karlaftis last year, so they can hit another big one that could be huge for their defensive pass rush. So, I mean, it's hard to pick a team like that, just kind of best available. I just don't necessarily see them picking a wide receiver that early. So,
well, we actually mocked an offensive tackle to him. Losing fair. Orlando Brown to the Bengals. Jawan Taylor has been a right tackle. Are you going to keep him at right tackle? You lost Wiley as well, so you lost both your starting tackles. So even if you move Taylor to left tackle, you still need a right tackle. But edge is hard to argue there. Yeah, with the loss of Frank Clark.
Definitely.
I feel like the Chiefs. And I mentioned this on the mock because I'm the one who mocked the tackle. It's like the Chiefs still remember what happened in that Bucs Super Bowl, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure offensive line is addressed, maybe before any other positions. So that would be my one pushback, but edge is like right there. I can't really argue with that.
Yeah, well, protecting the quarterback, getting to the quarterback, it's two of the biggest things, especially for a team like the Chiefs.
Yeah, and that's why they went out and got Orlando Brown a couple seasons ago for that exact reason, and it worked out. I mean, another year, another long off season of somehow, some way, the Chiefs doing just enough to stay the best. They've really mastered the asset allocation part of team building.
Who'd you guys have go to the Chiefs?
DeJuan Jones at 31.
DeJuan Jones,
okay.
From Ohio State.
I gotcha. I just know there's probably a big offensive tackle run throughout the first round. So depending on the value there.
5 or I know we had Skoronski, Johnson, Wright.
So if all their guys go out,
3, 4, 5 offensive tackles in the first round.
Par for the course. That seems like a pretty normal
with some good ones still on the board when we finish the first round too.
Yeah, we were actually shocked at the names. Jimmy, I don't know if you've noticed this too, but me and Brian were commenting on the nature of top heaviness in this draft. Mm-hmm. There's a fall off from elite talent after the first, 10, 15 picks, but the number of great like day 2 level talent from, the rest
starting
of the first
talent,
round,
maybe not stud, but starting talent.
Up through maybe even the third round, you're going to get second round grades. There's like 60 second round quality players, or late first quality players.
Yeah, and I feel like the draft is kind of won on day 2, right? When you get those first round talents that people kind of miss on, because there's a lot of first round players that kind of get missed on. Obviously, I mean, there's going to be half of these players are probably going to be busts in some capacity. So it'll be interesting to see. But the second and third round picks, I mean, they're never really considered busts because they're a second or third round pick. So
right.
All right, let's keep it rolling. There are only 2 more teams for Jimmy to get selected, so if they both come out, then I do believe it will be rigged. And everybody else went away.
Here we are.
Oh, now the boxes are moving all over the place. Anthony's gone rogue. I don't even know what's going on here. There we go.
I like it.
Trying to fix it.
He's trying to make it unrigged because we called him out on it. And it looks like the wheel went away in the background. All right, you guys can keep talking about the Chiefs and offensive tackles then.
Well, yeah, I mean, back to the.
Oh wait, here we go. Here we go.
I
Nice.
had my filler ready to go.
All right, let's go. Fourth AFC team, and their top biggest need. Who are we going to talk about? Roll it, Anthony.
If it's the.
Oh, here we go. This is my time to shine.
There we go.
This is my time.
Cincinnati Bengals. Kevin gets to talk.
So I'm gonna keep my my haterade away for the duration of probably the rest of this offseason. You know, I being a fan of an AFC team, and being a fan of the AFC team who has not represented the AFC in the Super Bowl in the last 3 years, it's difficult to put aside my jealousy for the Bengals and the Chiefs. But I do it for you guys because, again, I'm a man of the people. So I'm going to come right out and say I absolutely love how the Chiefs have been or the Bengals have been handling their offseason. Going out and getting Orlando Brown was so huge. And their needs are few and far between. They did have some big losses on the defense, but I'm not going to go defense today because we all know it's a passing league. We all know that they have probably the best receiving duo in the league. They have a top 3 quarterback for sure. Many would say top 2. I think the jury's out on that. You know, we'll get to that discussion later in the offseason. But I think that their biggest draft need is exactly the position that I slotted a stud to them in the first round on Friday. And I think their biggest draft they need is tight end because they lost Hayden Hurst, and he was such a chain mover for them. If you watched Bengals games, you know Hayden Hurst was Mr. Reliable when it came to Joe Burrow and getting out of pressure and finding the safety valve. And I think some of the guys in the late first round are just unbelievable fits for the Bengals at 28. And I think Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid, if he's there, I doubt it. It seems like he's creeped so high up draft boards that a lot of people have him going in the top 15. But I think tight end, given the loss of Hayden Hurst, is probably their biggest draft they need. I would say, given Jonah Williams' frustration with the acquisition of Orlando Brown, Jonah Williams at right tackle is not going to be a thing, it seems like. It seems like he's going to force his way out of town. So tackle could be a sneaky need for them. And Armand pointing out Joe Mixon being released and P. Ryan jumping ship and heading to Denver. Running back is a sneaky need for them as well because Joe Mixon, his whole situation is yikes. The charges are brought back up. He was already a cut candidate anyway due to the cap casualty. So I would be surprised if Mixon suits up for the Bengals next year, or frankly at all. So I think running back is and tackle are sneaky second and third, but I think tight end is the coup de grace of draft day needs for the Bengals.
Today's Legit Football talked about how the Bengals scheduled top 30 visits with both Dalton Kincaid and Michael Mayer.
There you go.
So, I mean, you're spot on. The Bengals are literally visiting using 2 of their only 30 visits with the 2 top tight ends in this draft. I think you're spot on there. Same, you could argue tackle, but
running back.
I don't know.
You said you don't believe
running
in
back.
Irv
I would
Smith
not
Jr.?
put.
Who?
Irv Smith Jr., my
Smith.
guy.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, I do, but I think he's a
I
very
think the
great tight end,
Bengals
too.
don't believe in Irv Smith Jr. They signed him for 1 year, and they're meeting
Yeah.
with the draft's top tight ends. So
Yeah.
Some of my hope comes with the people I have in Dynasty Football, and I have him somewhere on my roster. So I'm
It's
like,
very
hey,
fair.
I have an attachment to Irv Smith Jr. right now until I trade him.
I thought Irv would be great for the Vikings. I was really surprised. I mean, the injury didn't help. but
injuries mainly, multiple
he
injuries.
really didn't materialize. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Irv Smith, catches 15, 20 passes in a tight end 2 role behind their newly minted, drafted Ferrari toy tight end that they get.
No, but overall, yeah, you're right. I mean, Irv Smith hasn't proven anything, so having someone at that position could be huge for him. And that receiving core and tight end isn't just receiving sometimes. So, got to get someone who can block as well, and I think that could be huge for the running game as well. So,
yeah, Burrow with some more weapons is terrifying for the AFC, but I think it's going to happen.
All right, Anthony, let's keep it rolling. Let's spin the wheel of destiny.
The wheel
Anthony
of
Weiner.
destiny.
wow, we need a name for this wheel. Is Wheel of
I
Destiny?
like the wheel
it?
of destiny. Yeah, I
All
like
right.
that.
It's all right. It's all right.
Wheel
It's
of
a bit-
Time is kind of taken, so
Wheel of
Wheel of time. The
Wheel
wheel of
Fortune? That's original. I think
that's
yeah.
wow. How'd you come up with
But,
that?
yeah,
That is
I don't think
right off the top
anybody's
of my
used
head.
that before.
I think that's you, Money Mac.
That is. Hey,
think
I
that's
get to
you,
go
Big Mac.
with the Denver Broncos. So the Broncos are interesting because their first draft pick is not until the third round at pick 67. Yikes. So I had to, when determining, you can't just say, oh, they're top need, because it's like, well, top need, but also what's still available by the time the early third round rolls around. But then as I dug in, a need became pretty clear. You can look at cornerback on the opposite of Patrick Surtain. Certainly is a need, but I did not peg that as the top need because I pegged edge rusher as the top need. They have Randy Gregory, but he got injured, has not really been able to play a full season. His first year in Denver was last year. They've got Brandon Browning and rookie from last year, Nick Bonita, who flashed, but nothing. Brandon Browning didn't have a great PFF grade. He showed bits and pieces here. And you got to be able to rush the passer, as Jimmy said. So I think in the third round, going for an edge rusher, and for every of my 5 teams, I put at least one prospect on there. So an edge rusher with high upside who you could get in the third round is a guy like Yaya Diaby out of Louisville. So I've seen a lot of mocks putting him in the third round, but a lot of draft analysts that I respect say that he could have potential to be a starting edge rusher. So that's the kind of the guy I put with the Broncos. Can't argue with them taking cornerback, but as good as this cornerback class is, a lot of the best cornerbacks have already gone off the board by the time the third round rolled around, which is why I ended up selecting edge as their top need. Running back, sneaky need for them too, with the whole Javonte Williams, and he's not going to be ready for the start of the year. They brought on Samaje Perine. We were just talking about the Bengals, but is he really the guy? But positional value, I'm going to go for an edge if I can over a running back, and that's my logic.
I think it's a very sound call. Who do they got opposite Surtain right now at corner? Do they even have a guy or is it just
some guy named Mathis? I had their let me bring their roster.
Yeah, that's a need too. I think you're right. I think they need to bolster.
He was okay,
because their defense hasn't really been a huge problem. They had a pretty good defense last year.
They got Vance Joseph returning, former head coach returning to be the defensive coordinator. Yeah, so it was Damari Mathis, who was a rookie last year. So actually a 65.6 PFF grade is pretty respectable for a rookie who was drafted in the 4th round. So I think that's why it's a little bit less of a need. But you can't have too many corners in today's NFL. But once again, at all the top corners, positional value, it just was, they were gone as far as I was looking at big boards and everything. That's why I went with edge.
Yeah, I think that's a good call.
Yeah, it's tough having a pick that late. You don't really know who's going to be there. You don't know what kind of, but
and
you kind of go
really,
with the depth.
Do you think they probably don't have the capital to move up given what they had to give up to get Russ? So they're probably just, their hands are tied. They're going to have to make it happen. You have to figure it out.
Russ turned out pretty well, so that's okay.
Yeah, he was only 29 out of 32 qualified PFF quarterbacks.
Him and Peyton. That's back-to-back hauls that they did for their 2 current franchise cornerstones. Let's see what.
But if Peyton fixes him, it's all worth it. So we will see.
Same with Russ. Yeah.
Let's keep it rolling. We have a bunch of teams still to go. Roll it away.
I love seeing the board get a little smaller.
I was wondering how we were doing this so there wouldn't be a double pick, and so he's removing.
He's a wizard.
To spin it with 2 teams left is gonna be crazy.
Oh, I love it. Oh yeah.
All right, Tennessee Titans falls under Jimmy. Jimmy is going to be the first to finish this race.
There we go.
All right. Well, I still got one more after that, but we'll see what happens.
No, but you've got 4 out of 5. Each of us only has 1.
Slim I'm in the lead right now. Soon though. Money Mac, you and I better warm up our lungs. We're getting the Jimmy Ray treatment in a sec.
All right. Tennessee Titans. They have the 11th overall pick, and I know a lot of people are mocking maybe a quarterback to them. I don't have them picking a quarterback at this time. I don't feel like that's necessarily the biggest need right now. I think Brian Tannehill has been all right. Could they move on? Maybe. But I like picking offensive line here. They were collective pass blocking last year was ranked dead last via PFF. PFF is great, by the way. Big shout out to PFF real quick. Mm-hmm. That's where you get a lot of stats. There's a lot of websites that are good, but PFF.
We reference PFF so much on this show. It's so much of what I do from an individual player comes from PFF.
Yeah. I just want to give a shout out since I'm throwing out all these stats. They were 26th in pass block win rate, 54%. Only 1 offensive lineman last year played in every single game. Aaron Brewer. I mean, they added a couple guys, Andre Dilliard, Daniel Brunskill. They need offensive line help. So that's pretty much it. They can go wide receiver, cornerback.
Right?
They already
gone,
released
right?
him.
Lewan's
Taylor
done.
Lewan is
Lewan's
released.
done.
Yeah, he's probably
I
going to
don't know
retire. I
where-
don't think he's officially retired yet, but he has been released.
I think he's looking around still. We'll
That's
see.
tough because he's been a stalwart for them. Like he's been there for what, like almost a decade. That's sad for them. I mean, good run. But you're so right, Jamie. Right? There's a Taylor Lewan-sized hole at the tackle position.
Yeah, Lewan kind of ended
we
tough,
agreed with you. Our mock, we put Paris Johnson Jr. at tackle. Will Levis was still on the board. We did not put Levis. He went to the Commanders at 16, which is funny because today's Legit Football, we said that they're not looking to get a quarterback. But still, the point being with regards to the Titans, we agreed with you. We did not put a quarterback there. We did go offensive tackle. Dane Brugler did put his 7th-round mock came out today from The Athletic. He put Will Levis with the Titans at 11.
Wow.
But I don't know.
I feel like if Will Levis drops that much, there might be a trade up or something with a different team.
Really quick, I just want to address this comment from Armand. I didn't see it at the time, but Bijan to the Bengals at 28. Guys, there's no way Bijan's making it to 28.
He's not
right?
falling to 28. Absolutely not.
I've seen mocks where
the Bills will take him at 27 if he falls.
I think so too.
Far.
I would be so bummed if Buffalo,
the Eagles,
had the, chance
the Cowboys will take him at 26.
Yeah,
Jerry will not pass up a running back from Texas of this caliber in the first round. So,
but I could see any team,
awesome.
Any 32 team trade up for him because he's that kind of talent. I could see it. Sorry, that was just a little segue. Stuff. You're totally right, Jimmy Ray. Yeah, the Titans they have so many needs. Also, they're kind of in like a Cardinals light position. The only difference is they have organizational stability, and they I guess technically have a healthy quarterback. But I think Tannehill's ship has sailed, and I think the longer you cling to the remnants of his career, the longer you postpone your inevitable rebuild.
Yeah,
and I think they should. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, if they want to trade up and get a quarterback, I'm fine with that. But kind of picking the last guy available at pick 11, unless they absolutely find a way to love him, it's just kind of tough for me. And they do have Ryan Tannehill right now. Could they go into full mass rebuild soon? I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, they're in the AFC South, so they definitely need a quarterback soon.
How depleted is their wide receiver situation? Burks
is it?
Burks.
Robert Woods is gone now. He went to Houston.
Yeah,
they'll probably end up drafting a wide receiver or two in this draft. You have Westbrook Akine is the number 2 right now.
He's okay.
Okay, so
he does some things.
So they're good. Yeah,
they're good.
Yeah, right.
They do have who's their young Chig Okonkwo. That's
he's
so
a
they
stud.
He's an up and coming tight end. But yes, they
Kyle
need a lot.
Phillips.
They need help. Year, right? Basically, their defensive line is pretty solid. Obviously, they just re-signed Jeffrey Simmons, but their offensive line needs help. Derrick Henry, maybe they're going to trade him. If nothing else, he's getting up there in age. Wide receiver, they need help. Quarterback, they need help. Defensive secondary, linebacker, all across the board. They have a ton of needs.
I think I would pull trigger on the rebuild if I was.
I don't know what Jimmy's doing right now. He's pulling like
not 4. Sorry.
Okay. Is that a LeBron rings type situation?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
that's elite.
Yeah, I could see the Titans going to a full rebuild. Any AFC South team could right now, honestly, except for the
other than the Jags.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go. Let's keep it rolling. I'm going with Wheel of Destiny, unless you guys have a different name.
Wheel of Destiny.
I don't.
Wheel of Destiny.
I don't know.
It's the destiny. It decides who gets to go. So.
I don't know. I got to think. I'll think of something else.
Okay, Jimmy. We'll leave it on you to think of something else.
Chargers.
All right, let's roll. I'm staying in the AFC West with the LA Chargers. So this is easy because I had them in the mock draft, and I put a pass catcher. I actually put Darnell Washington, tight end, but it could go a number of different ways. The big thing here is I emphasize pass catcher as their top need, and we actually had an article in today's Legit Football as well that they're looking at pass catcher. That's the key thing. A lot of people immediately took that to mean wide receiver, and look, they do have meetings with Jordan Addison. But when you look at this wide receiver class, at who's going to be available, because JSN won't be available when they pick at 21, I just don't like the value. I'm not as high on this wide receiver class. Actually, it seems like a lot of people in the media aren't high on this wide receiver class. But even the guys that would go first round, a Jordan Addison, a Zay Flowers, I don't think Quentin Johnson works because he's too Mike Williams-like, right? Yeah. So then who do you go with? You might as well go with one of these top tight ends. If Dalton Kincaid falls there, that's the guy I'm picking. You need a weapon. Gerald Everett is fine as a tight end, but he doesn't have the upside from a weapon standpoint that you can move around the offense like a Dalton Kincaid. I like the potential of a Darnell Washington because Washington is already a really good blocker. They can kind of use him early on. You don't have to wait for that development cycle. You probably still need to attack wide receiver later. They just re-signed Jalen Guyton. I think it was just a 1 year, maybe it was a transition tag. They have Josh Palmer. But Mike Williams has had injury issues. Keenan Allen is fantastic when he's healthy. He's had injury issues. And even if those guys are healthy, you could use a deep threat. You could use a different weapon. So I have pass catcher. And I mentioned those guys. Addison, I guess, because Jordan Addison could potentially play outside a little bit. But you don't want a guy that's going to... Keenan Allen's a slot guy. I wanted a different kind of weapon, which is why I kind of zoned in on the tight ends.
Yeah, I could see the tight end position being a better bet, especially at that pick that they have.
Correct. Another place where I'm like, well, I don't love the wide receivers in this pick, but I do love the multiple tight end options that'll likely be available here, which is why I went with that. And then there's wide receivers who have a lot of upside that you could get in the second or third round.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really interesting because they have Herbert, right? So you gotta keep the cupboard stocked, right?
And
so
new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore.
Oh yeah. And Kellen Moore is a good offensive mind. I'm very, very excited for him in that offense. I hope he unlocks Herbert. Herbert has been anomalous, in my opinion, in his career thus far. I don't know what it is that's going to unlock him or take him to that next level, if that's coming. I mean, I would hate to see Herbert.
I think play calling is certainly a good place to start.
Yeah, I would hate to see him go the way of his predecessors like Rivers. And just like never make it to that elite tier, just never take that one step forward. I feel like Herbert right now is, it's kind of bizarre. So I think giving him more is not a bad idea right now at this stage of the life cycle because he hasn't. Correct me if I'm wrong. He hasn't signed an extension yet, has he?
No, Herbert and Burrow are next up.
That's on the horizon. And that's going to be
Lamar.
huge.
Lamar's been next up for like the last 2 years.
Yeah. I remember when that conversation was
buzzer beater.
It was Lamar, Baker, and Josh, and I think a lot of people thought Baker would get the most money and would get the deal first. And then that fall off was like, wow, that was off a cliff. And the Lamar thing is just pretty self-imposed from what it seems. Like I heard the new contract today was $200 million. I know I'm off topic, but $200 million guaranteed, and the Hurts deal, insane. The
Wait, the $200 million was what the Ravens
guaranteed.
offered?
They threw $200 million guaranteed at the new in the new Lamar deal.
He needs to accept, especially with Hurts,
I think so,
who was having an MVP caliber season and took his team to the Super Bowl, which Lamar's never done. What was the guaranteed on his 179?
I think it was 180. Close to that 179.
255 overall. Like if you're getting $200 million guaranteed, Lamar, you got Odell. Freaking take it.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Yeah. So again, not to besmirch, the talent of the man, but
good word use.
Dude, you like that? Thank you. Jump in, man. It's time. It's sign the freaking contract, man. Start your off season. Start getting the ball rolling. Anyways, huge tangent. I don't even remember what team we were talking about. Chargers.
The Chargers.
We were talking about the Chargers.
The Chargers, Chargers need a tight end.
Chargers need a tight end. Somehow that equates to Lamar Jackson's contract situation.
It was the
everything.
Yeah, it was the quarterback controversy. It was the quarterback carousel. We wrote it a little bit too much, a little too far. But good
let's do the team carousel.
Let's do it.
Is that better than Wheel of Destiny? Team carousel.
Nice. I like a carousel.
Okay. All right, Jimmy approves. So we're gonna go to team carousel here.
The Steelers and Colts are the same color and they're right next to each other. That could get weird. Here we go.
Is it gonna be Dolphins or gonna be Colts?
That's Colts.
Colts.
That's Colts.
Either way, it's me.
I was gonna say poor Jimmy Ray. Why
no, Jimmy did not pick the Colts.
Yeah, well, you're just too afraid of your
close
bias.
to home.
I was tired of it. Yeah, I'm tired.
He was
of it.
making
I
a professional.
Talk about it.
He was making a business decision.
So for those if you're a regular listener or viewer of this show, you obviously know Jimmy is a huge Colts fan. He purposely chose not to cover the Colts here. Maybe it's self-protection. I don't know what that is.
Oh, what is that?
A whole bunch of people. A Colts
it was a team
photo.
Picture from like 2006.
So we'll keep the Colts one quick. We don't want Jimmy to have to listen to it too much because this is also the most slam dunk. The Colts need a quarterback. They're picking at QB number 4. There's a lot of talk lately that Yeah, really like, oh.
Shook.
There's a lot of talk lately that the Texans may not be so enamored with CJ Stroud, and that, in fact, the league in general may not be super enamored with CJ Stroud, so he could fall to 4. But I don't know. Shane Steichen, what he's worked with Herbert, he's worked with Hurts. I'd want to see him with a guy like Anthony Richardson. You got Minshew there, who we know is capable of starting. Get him, give Richardson time to adjust to the NFL and learn. He's as raw as it gets because he's played so little football. I think he only started playing football at like a junior in high school. He only played one full season as a starter at quarterback at Florida. His athletics are just, you don't have enough superlatives to describe it. Apparently he scored really well in the S2, which measures processing speed and decision making. That's important. So it's as raw as it gets. You got to chase ceiling here. Stroud, sure, is a nice passer, but if I'm the Colts, I'm chasing ceiling. You've been chasing quarterbacks since Andrew Luck retired. Why not go for the guy who's going to give you the largest potential? And I heard something, it actually might have been Dane Brugler from The Athletic who mentioned that his rushing ability doesn't necessarily raise the ceiling so much as it raises the floor. If you've got a quarterback like that, like Jalen Hurts in his rookie season, they went to the playoffs, right? Because he can give you an ability to run an NFL offense. Justin Fields this year, where he doesn't need to be an elite passer just yet. Lamar Jackson in his first season, right? You can let his passing come up, but the fact that he's such a weapon running the ball, that raises the floor. So if I'm the Colts and I have pick number 4 and Anthony Richardson's on the board and Bryce Young isn't, which he's not going to be, then that's the pick I'm personally drafting.
Yeah, I like going with the rushing ability there, because if a play breaks down or something like that, which will happen as a rookie, you've got the legs. You can move, you can be a playmaker, you can get out there and get down the field.
But can you imagine RPOs and read options with Jonathan
Absolutely.
Taylor and Anthony Richardson, and
Yeah.
hopefully that offensive line returns to form? Like, wow, that would be a fun offense.
I don't think the Colts have ever ran that kind of offense. So Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Phillip Rivers.
Well,
Jacoby
because they only
Brissett
had
was probably the best rushing
quarterbacks last couple
Peyton
of
Manning.
years. So.
Peyton Manning was a great runner, right? We all know that, but not good at the pocket, but he was a good runner.
Luck was pretty fun. Luck had a little
Luck was mobile.
Yeah.
He had a little pep in his step,
mobile to a fault, maybe.
It absolutely has to be quarterback at 4. And Brian, your point of Texans aren't enamored with anyone. Does that push a team to 2, maybe even like the Colts, who want to secure their second, their guy at 2? I don't know. That's
possible.
An interesting discussion.
But I don't think the Texans are going to trade in. Like, why would you trade with your in-division rival, right? So I don't even think they would entertain.
That won't happen.
It's tricky.
An offer from the Colts. So I think you just have to. If Anthony Richardson falls to 4, then you go and get him. And if not, maybe trade out of 4 and play the Drake May, Caleb Williams sweepstakes for next season.
Which is, for the Texans and the Colts, that's
or trade back and get Stroud later if he really does fall. It's not that you can't, but at 4, I think is the big question.
There's no way Stroud's gonna fall out of the top 5, right? I don't see it happening.
No.
I don't know. Apparently, the media is higher on Stroud than NFL teams. I'm starting to see that in multiple.
Interesting, because he was
analysis.
He was guaranteed the one like 2 or 3 weeks ago. That's things change.
Betting odds from Vegas is heavily in favor of Bryce Young right
now.
Oh,
I heard Young canceled all his meet. Yeah. I think Young is sewed up. Yeah, I think he's sewed up at 1, which is fun.
Anyways, I kind of like the Colts' position at 4, at least if a team doesn't trade up over them, because then whoever the Texans don't draft, we possibly could get them, and we could it's the guy they didn't pick, right?
Right. So it's always
just a little narrative driven there, but
if it's Levis, you think you could probably. If Levis is the last one left and you're at 4, do you trade back? Do you try to
That's a possibility.
Slide down
that's
to
a possibility
12?
with anybody. If we don't like Anthony Richardson for whatever reason, but we I feel like we've been drafting more
Richardson.
He's
there.
Top level athletic ability and make it work after the fact, because you can't teach kind of the measurements that he had. You got
correct.
Quarterbacks, regardless of how much. Yeah, regardless of how much experience they have, they could be bust. We've
I can see Richardson getting poached at 3 if somebody goes up to the Cardinals spot. That's terrifying.
All right, we have got 7 teams left to cover, so let's keep on rolling. Let's go back to the team carousel.
Let's go.
Woo! The Destiny carousel. No.
No, what? I thought we had a name. You don't have to keep trying to change it.
Destiny's Team Carousel.
It's going to be Kevin, whichever one of this it lands on. All right. Houston Texans, Kevin Phillips.
Perfect.
This is easy because this is my second favorite team. This is my preseason darling. I've loved what they've done in the offseason, and I've been banging the drum for them since before they made the Dalton Schultz and Devin Singletary signings. I've been all about what they're doing, and their team need. I'm going to be super selfish, and I'm going to align it with what we did on Friday. I can't see a world where if JSN is on the board at 12, they don't sprint to the podium for JSN, because I think pass catcher is a huge need for them. Dalton Schultz is fantastic. He's a fantastic pass catcher, but who else do they have catching pass? Bobby Trees. Okay. Got it.
Collins.
Who else? Nico Collins. Okay.
He's a star.
Yeah. I bet he's on Jimmy's dynasty team if he's going to.
He is. I do have him in one of my dynasty teams. Thank you.
I have him too, and I like him. I do, but I think star is that word has never worked so hard when you call Nico Collins a star. No, he's fine, but I think you got to throw in a stud receiver to that team to give whoever they pick it to a stud to throw it to, and whether it's Stroud, Richardson, Levis, or if they end up sticking with Davis Mills, or if they end up picking or acquiring somebody in a trade, you got to give them more weapons. And I think pass catcher is the glaring top need for the Texans.
Yeah. More than quarterback.
Oh, I'm so stupid. You're so right.
I wanted you to finish your diatribe, and then I was going to bring that back around.
I thank you for that.
He two-packed it.
I just assumed that 2 was chalk at quarterback, and I was going with like the next biggest need. But you're right. It's quarterback. Yeah, obviously. That was a hilarious 3-minute long brain fart.
I like your explanation. I didn't want to stop you.
Yeah, I was on a roll.
JSN at 2 for a second. I was like, all right, Kevin.
I was just completely chalking whoever it was at 2, Stroud or I think they're you.
I'm like he believes in Davis Mills, I guess.
And everything that has been coming out.
Yeah, why not?
Does scare me a little bit off the Texans take a QB at 2, but I still think. Did Keenum went to the Texans? Yes.
Like Case Keenum?
Yes, they have Keenum and they have
playoff
Mills.
Experience. You don't need a quarterback in Houston.
Yeah. I think there's still an 85% chance they take a QB at 2. I do.
85. That's pretty low.
Do you think that's low? What do you think the odds are?
I don't know.
Money Mac, Big Mac.
I'm starting to lean that they don't take a quarterback at 2 unless it's Bryce Young, and it's not going to be Bryce Young.
So like you're 51-49.
I think I'm 51% chance they do not take a quarterback at 2.
You're betting man, McFadden. I'm in on that.
We can discuss.
I'm on Kevin's side.
Whatever terms we come up with, we will announce on the show. We can have a wager. Yes. Okay. We'll have it figured out by Friday's show so that we have a full week ahead of the draft. Okay.
That's a fun one. But I think so. Yeah. Obviously, quarterback and pass catcher are the 1-2 punch. Yeah, that was definitely for my darling Texans.
All right, let's go back to. I'm still going to say the team carousel unless you guys come up with something better.
No, 100%.
Yeah, I love it.
Jets are the lone green team.
I don't know what I like, honestly.
There we go.
Looks like it's going to be Jets. Kevin Phillip Fox with the New York Jets.
Well,
hopefully Armand is still in the chat. He's waited this long. His Jets finally come up.
I might go on a little bit of a rant here just to come back and say that it's quarterback until they get Rodgers, but I won't. I will go on my rant again.
Well, draft need. I mean, they're not going to draft a quarterback, even if Rodgers does. Yeah,
so I think we can all agree that the NFL as a whole, the Jets, and anybody with eyes are out on Mekhi Becton after the last couple seasons, right? Like, he's just not it. We thought he was going to be it. He was an extremely high draft pick, if I recall correctly, top 10. He's not it. And I think they need to correct. They need to course correct now, and I think this is the year to do it, given that you are potentially bringing in a future Hall of Fame quarterback to, throw passes to your freaking stud wide receiver 1 stallion Garrett Wilson and your stud RB1 stallion Breece Hall, and your great defense that Salah's been, pretty much keeping on top of the NFL.
I believe it's pronounced Salah.
Yeah, Salah.
Salah. Yeah, I was like, who's Salah?
I always mess that one up. That's a tough one for me, but I think you got to get some protection for Rodgers, and I think AVT's holding it down at guard, guard, and I think they're going to bring in a tackle with their first round pick.
I don't disagree with that at all.
I think that's a huge need for the Jets.
Yeah,
and we put who we gave them a tackle. It was
Darnell Wright.
Oh yeah, Darnell Wright. Yeah, we gave them Darnell Wright at 13. So
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be huge for them, or any of them really.
I think we said whoever the quarterback is, Rodgers or not, they're going to need somebody to protect him. The talent they have on the offensive line has been on the interior. Elijah Vera Tucker had to play some tackle last year, even though he's a guard, so they need offensive tackle badly.
Yep,
yeah, I think
protect Zach Wilson for sure.
Ouch.
Disrespect.
All right, let's go back to the team carousel.
Love the team carousel. The name's growing on me, by the way.
I'm starting to dislike that
if
name.
I say it enough, then it'll.
I don't like the name now.
Okay, you liked it at first.
Jimmy.
All right.
I'm not feeling it. I don't know what's happening.
Pittsburgh Steelers is me. They are picking at pick 17. Two pretty strong needs. The one that I'm not going to go with is offensive line. Their offensive line is actually improved over where it was in 2021, which was one of the worst in the league, bottom 5, but it still needs a lot of work. Yeah. Kenny Pickett, second-year quarterback. They need to protect him. They have some weapons. They've got running back. They've got lots of wide receivers. That's a need, but it wasn't the biggest glaring need, and that was defensive back. That was cornerback. They did sign Patrick Peterson, who was sneaky like a top 12 or 13 cornerback according to PFF last year. But number one, he's the only real cornerback they have. And number two, he is 33 years old. And this is one of my favorite picks that we mocked him here in the draft. Why not go with the legacy, Joey Porter Jr.? It's your top need. It's a guy who is a legend for your franchise. It just makes so much sense. If you guys agree, we can literally just move on to the next team here.
I think within 5 picks, if Porter's on the board, you got to start trading up, right? You got to start thinking about how you can get him, because that's just it just needs to happen. I'm super down to chalk that one and move on. I will say really quick, they brought in Levi Wallace last offseason, and I was a big fan of his from his days in Buffalo. You know, he's very much a low ceiling prospect. He's a low ceiling player, but he's not disgustingly bad. Like he's not, I think he's an okay piece.
Yeah, and a depth or at least like a third cornerback. But in today's NFL, you need 3 starting caliber cornerbacks.
And really quick too, also, are you guys like temperature check on Pickett? You can give me, a sentence or less. Do you guys like Pickett or?
Jury's still out.
Yeah,
I don't.
I'm right in the middle. I'm room temperature.
I think we need to see a full season. He didn't start the year. They had Trubisky.
I like that.
Room temperature works.
I always struggle with low ceiling quarterbacks. That's just that's the Bills fan in me. I struggle with the game managers. But I digress. We will definitely have that chat all off season. I'm ready to hit the team of destiny.
Let's go back to the
team
of destiny. Now we're just mixing up the different names.
We're the team.
Wheel of Destiny carousel. I don't know.
Wheel of Team Destiny carousel. That's what it's going to be.
Here we go.
Oh, here we go. So this one is the one and only. That's why it's red, I'm guessing.
Oh, I love this.
One that was not assigned to one of the 3 of us, so we assigned it to our producer, Anthony Weiner. Anthony gets to come from behind the scenes.
What?
His one and only time this episode.
Go.
Look at that.
He gets to talk about the Cleveland Browns. Anthony, give us the biggest draft need in Cleveland.
All right. So in the offseason, the Browns signed Dalvin Tomlinson, Juan Thornhill. I forgot to pronounce this. Okoronkwo.
Yep.
And Jordan.
That sounds right.
And I did get it right. Okay. That covered 2 bases on the defensive line, which I think is arguably the worst last year. And they don't have a pick in the first or second rounds. And everything is looking okay offensively, especially with that Elijah Moore trade. Mm-hmm. And that's going to hurt them in the draft because now they don't have a second round pick. But they need to focus on defense. And they have a lot of draft picks later. And I think you have to stack up on defensive players to add depth. I think that defensive linemen or a defensive end would be a good addition to add to the pass rush. And you just lost Myles Garrett. And I think the starters are all promising on the interior, but they're going to need depth. And if either one of those guys go out, whether it's for injury or performance, you need someone to step up. And I think that you can pick that in the draft or it's going to free agency, but we're talking about the draft here. And honestly, I think there's this name that I just saw. He just had a draft visit with Cleveland. His name is DJ Johnson of Oregon. And I like this guy because he actually went to school right down the road from where I live, Burbank High School.
Sick.
So I thought that I found that interesting, and I did some research on him, and he did just visit with Cleveland. He stepped up and he played tight end. He's a defensive end. He stepped up and played tight end for Oregon for the Ducks when their tight end went out. And I just think that his talent, he's going to be picked late. So I thought, why not Cleveland? Why not Browns pick this late draft guy, this late prospect? And Jim Schwartz is going to need it. He's going to need somebody to develop behind the veterans that they already have. So if I had to pick two, it'd be a defensive lineman or a linebacker would probably be their top draft needs. They have some star names, some you could consider household names, but that's it. You know, you have to add depth. And if you're already picking late, you're not going to pick a starter no matter what. So you might as well start developing early, start drafting younger, develop and to move Cleveland has to go because they're trying to build a team into success and they don't have a non-talented team. I mean, you hear these names on this Cleveland team and you kind of shrug, you just kind of tell yourself, that's not bad. And I'm surprised that they had the season that they did because of these names that are on the team and what they did in the offseason signing these guys. And I just think that Cleveland's looking up, even with their lack of early draft picks. I think a linebacker or a defensive end, interior defensive lineman is the way to go.
I can dig it.
Works for me.
Yeah, crushed it.
You nailed it, Anthony. Great research. Great context.
Our next team is. All right, see you guys.
Drop the fixed mic. You may go back to your producing duties.
And we have.
Thank you, Anthony.
The team carousel.
The wheel of team carousel destiny.
That's the best one. 100%.
I'm just gonna keep mixing up the names.
Oh my word! Look at these beautiful.
I love how my Dolphins and your Bills are still somehow on.
I know
this.
we got some real.
And they're gonna come down to it.
I'm in the blast, aren't I?
Here we go.
Kevin with the Las Vegas Raiders.
I got another 2-pack for you, and I'm gonna go with the more obvious one, the more glaring one, the one that I think is chalkier first. I think, given the botching of the position in recent years, especially I want to say last year or 2 years ago's draft when they picked Alex Leatherwood, and they cut him almost immediately, like a year later. That's just devastating. I think
everyone killed them for that pick too. So
yeah, it was a bad pick at the time. He was a later
round
round prospect, and they took him in the first. I think you got to go offensive line here for the Raiders. I mean, Josh Jacobs has been, one of the best running backs in the league last couple seasons, especially last year. Set the world on fire. RB1 in fantasy, rushing leader, and I recognize a need at quarterback as well long term. We talk a lot on the show about Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm one of his biggest, staunchest defenders, and I will be, but I don't think he's the quarterback of the future. I think he's as good as it gets for a bridge quarterback. And you have the insurance of Jarrett Stidham. We mentioned not the best insurance policy you're getting from Stidham. So I think long term, I'd like to see them draft a quarterback. I would actually love to see them trade up into the late first and grab Hendon Hooker. I think that's something to watch out for. I think they're definitely a Hendon Hooker watch team for like 20 picks, 27 through 31. I think they're definitely sneaky to try to get that first year or fifth year option. But I think the chalky need is offensive line, and also a corner. I think they could definitely use some depth at corner. I just personally think we've talked a lot on the show about
not depth. They need starters at corner. Yeah. They were one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL last year.
Yeah, their defensive backfield is not great. Did they picked up, was it Epps? Went out and picked up Epps.
They got Marcus Epps. That's a safety, but he's not.
So their defensive backfield is going to be slightly improved, but yeah, you're definitely going to want to stack the cupboard for the defensive backfield. It's a very important position, but I still think it's tough because, I do think their offensive line is in shambles as well. So I think you could go corner or O-line and then quarterback. I'm watching them for Hendon Hooker late in the first.
Their second starting cornerback is David Long Jr., and has scored 53 PFF scores in 2 of the last 3 seasons.
That's
That's their opposite corner.
Who's their starter?
Duke Shelley actually had a pretty solid
they
year.
picked up Duke Shelley from Minnesota. Yeah.
So coverage grade of 86.4 last year, which is third among.
He's decent. He's a little guy.
Yep,
but he's good. He can do it. He can get the job done. But
but that's it. The only outside of him, everybody on their defense is in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, other than Max Crosby, who's a 90 as far as PFF
Crosby's
grades.
a stud.
So you need defense. I mocked Devin Witherspoon. Dane Brugler also mocked Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah.
I think I told you, Kevin. I did tell you off air that we actually, the first 7 picks for our live mock were the exact same 7 picks for Dane Brugler from The Athletic.
Yeah, we had a really we dropped we
got 11 matches total.
We need everybody who hasn't heard it yet, go listen to that. It was a really fun time, and like we said, there's going to be another one right around the corner. But the Raiders are an interesting team because I think they do have a lot of needs. I think corner, defense, O-line, and future quarterback are the biggest ones right now.
I feel like it's been a while since I've hit on any draft pick. Really, there's been a lot of misses with Henry Ruggs and Damon Arnett.
Yeah.
I mean, all sorts of Jonathan Abram, I think too. I mean,
tough.
Yeah, Jonathan Abram, Cleveland Farrell.
They've had a tough run.
List. Yeah,
they got a new GM, right? Their GM is in his first,
Dave Ziegler.
Year?
Yeah, it's the second year. He came over with McDaniels, right, from the Patriots.
Well, he's got a little bit of time to right the ship because I think McDaniels might have one of the hottest seats in the league.
All right, we've got actually, you know what? The just real quickly on that, the Raiders are one of the more cash poor teams. They can't afford to fire Josh McDaniels right now because it would cost them too much. They can't eat that contract, so he's not as hot of a seat as you think.
Right.
We've got 3 teams left, so let's go ahead and go back to the carousel of teams in Destiny Dream Wheel form.
Destiny.
Whoa! He said Dream Wheel form.
I like Dream Wheel.
He said.
It's really going to have the Bills and the Dolphins last. This is rigged. But let's go ahead, and Jimmy finally gets his 5th pick. Jacksonville Jaguars, Jimmy.
Jimmy, you were waiting like a freaking wide receiver on draft night right there, man.
Wow, I felt like Johnny Manziel, honestly.
Yeah, I was going to say, you had your run early, and then you chilled.
Yeah, you know who's waiting on draft night to make a pick? The Jaguars. They don't pick until the 24th pick. First time they don't have a top 10 pick since 2018. So it's been a few years since they've waited this long. The GM's going to be like at pick 9. He's going to be like, we don't pick
Trent
right
Baalke.
now?
He's
What's
not
going on?
going to go crazy. He's going to trade up.
He's going to go crazy. So I'm going to continue the trend of cornerbacks. I feel like we've talked about cornerbacks a lot because, hey, you need a bunch. You can never have too many corners because there's always corners coming in and out. I mean, the Jaguars, they have Tyson Campbell, which is good, Darius Williams, but after that, it's kind of next to nothing. Shaquille Griffin is gone, and next year they're facing 14 receivers who had 800 plus yards last season, 8 of which had 1,000 plus yards. So they're going to be going through it with their schedule next year. But I think cornerbacks are pretty big need for them. You could argue for tackle too if there's one worth taking down to 24th, which I'm sure there will be because of how deep it is. But just based off the value of that pick, I feel like corner could work out for him. They have Calais, Ringo, Emmanuel Forbes. There's quite a few corners that they could go with.
So we mocked. Let's see who had this pick. This was Kevin had this pick. We mocked Deonte Banks, cornerback from Maryland,
Deonte Banks,
to the Jags.
Brian.
Fun fact on him, real quick, Banks. You mentioned our last show that you were on, Jimmy, about Ken Platt's RAS, relative athletic score, math bomb on Twitter. Deonte Banks got a perfect 10 in RAS, a perfect 10 for cornerback. So I mean, this is an athletic.
Do you have his stats on? What were his?
I got his combine numbers and everything. 6 feet, 197. Ran a 4.35 40-yard dash, 1.45 10-yard split. That's insane. 1.5 is a good 10-yard split. He's at 1.45, which is probably one of the reasons. 42-inch vertical, 11-foot broad jump. This guy is an athletic beast.
Yeah, You love athleticism at the cornerback position because of how athletic receivers are these days. I mean, you need somebody who can go stride for stride with Tyreek Hill. And so Banks fits the mold there. That's a great prospect, and I think he would make the Jags a terrifying team because they're already ascendant. They're already, threatening. I mentioned on the show last week, Brian had to talk me off a tight end cliff when it came to the Jags because Ingram's only showing up for one more year. He's got the tag. He's not signed. I don't know what they're gonna do if he goes, but I think Lawrence clearly.
Well, I think
favors that position.
they'll address it, but they just don't. There's some good third round tight ends.
Yeah, it was a first
draft.
round tight end cliff.
Yes, it was number 24.
This is not the year to take a tight end early unless you're getting one of the top two because there's so much depth.
Right, but also they're not. They have bigger needs than tight end right now. At that pick, so that's why.
Yeah.
I with Ingram there, you need to address defensive back. You need to address offensive line, as Jimmy said.
Yeah.
You don't need to address tight end in the first round right now.
Yeah, you're drafting a tight end too. That's really not a first round position, honestly. Right. Here we go.
All right, it's just down to my Dolphins and your Bills, Kevin. What are the odds? Let's roll the randomized team of destiny, of carousel, of dreams where they're made and broken on draft night.
Oh, that's looking like it's going to be Buffalo. There we
go. Buffalo Bills, Kevin Phillip Fox.
It'd be funny if Kevin had the Dolphins and you had the Bills.
Hey, that's what happened.
We should have done it that way.
We should have. That's true. And you made me proud. I was very happy with that pick.
You're welcome.
So here we go. Buffalo
Van
Bills.
Ness fell. I gave him Van Ness, who a lot of people are. Yeah.
Love the Van Ness. It's not going to happen. No way he makes it 27.
Right, he's not going to fall.
I saw Brugler had him going in the top 10, I think. That's the run on edges in Brugler's mock was nuts. I could see
mock's
that.
Got rigged too. I don't know what's going on.
So Buffalo is interesting because, obviously when you're contending for, Super Bowls within the last couple of years, being, one of the last 4 teams standing the last handful of years in the AFC, there's got to be not as many holes as you would think, right? I mean, it's pretty difficult to steer away from this one that I have in my head. And I don't think it's going to be a first round pick that gets addressed, but I think it needs to get addressed. And if they did pick it in the first round, I wouldn't even be at all disappointed or frustrated because at a certain point in time, I think they need to just get their guy. And I think off-ball linebacker for me is the biggest draft need, given the hole left by 6'7", 250-pound Tremaine Edmonds. That's a massive hole, and he's been the captain of the defense. Right now, they don't have a starting linebacker opposite Milano. They did bring AJ Klein back today, which I think is draft insurance. He's been fine. I love him as a rotational piece, but when he starts games, you feel that he's starting the game because he gets targeted. They go after him in the middle of the field, running backs, tight ends. I don't think he's the guy. I love Jack Campbell. Brugler mocked Drew Sanders to the Bills at 27. I'm cool with that. I think that's the biggest team need overall. And I think if we were going off of first round needs based on where they're picking, I do love if a great edge falls down to 27. I would love to see them pick up a Nolan Smith, a Lucas Van Ness, one of those blue chip or top tier edge prospects.
Nolan Smith was Brugler put him in the top 10 too, so I don't think either of those guys are falling.
It's tough. Yeah. But one of those studs. Wide receiver, sneaky draft day need, and most of their pre-draft visits right now are with wide receivers. And if they don't get DeAndre Hopkins, they're looking at another year of Steph Diggs and Gabe Davis as the 1-2. And if you read the tea leaves, we've heard Brandon Beane say multiple times they believe in Gabe Davis as a wide receiver too. I'm not buying it. He's a great piece. He's a great complementary piece, but he's not a wide receiver too, in my opinion. And I think if he were, he would have made more plays that he didn't make down the stretch last year. He was, in my opinion, he was very disappointing. 55% catch rate. We've talked about that a lot. Disgusting. So wide receiver, linebacker, and edge.
Couldn't name just one.
Well, I think
it's your Bills. I get it.
Linebacker would be the one because they don't have a starter there. But other than that, yeah, the other two are interesting as well. I will say to watch for the first round.
Should we do the wheel with just one team, or should I just go into the Dolphins? Okay, yes, all right.
Is that possible?
I love look at the giant Dolphins orange.
That's just like a record.
Go. Pick.
The Wheel of Destiny dream.
Let's go.
Here we go.
All right, I promise this is
Madden.
not rigged. We are going to close it out with my Miami Dolphins.
It's rigged.
It's rigged.
It's
Jimmy
100% rigged, but we're here for entertainment value. All right, so I've seen a few mocks. So the Dolphins don't have a first round pick. We've mentioned Jimmy was nice enough to remind us that they lost their first round pick due to tampering. Thank you, Stephen Ross. So their first pick is in the second round at number 51. I have seen some mocks that put a tight end there, and yes, we talked about this deep tight end class, but this team, tight end is not a huge need in the Shanahan, Mike McDaniel offense. They have Durham Smythe. They get rid of Mike Gesicki, and everybody's like, oh, they need tight end. Durham Smythe was actually 16th in blocking amongst tight ends in PFF. So he's solid tight end. He may not be a great pass catcher. He doesn't need to be a great pass catcher. You've got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You don't need a great tight end, and you can get him later. You can get a third or fourth round tight end if you really need to. So that means
was Durham Smythe involved in the Jalen Ramsey trade? I actually think
no, that was Hunter Long. That was Hunter Long.
You sure?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Hunter Long, who was their third round pick out of Boston College from 2 drafts ago, he's who they sent to LA. Durham Smythe is still right now the starting tight end for the Miami Dolphins. So that brings it down to one thing. They've done some great things on the defense, including upgrading their coordinator, but they still need to protect the guy who considered retiring because of all the concussions he's had. So that means they need to address offensive line. They've got some really good ones. Teron Armstead is one of the best tackles in the league when he's healthy. Connor Williams, sneakily like the third or fourth best center in the league last year after transitioning from guard from Dallas. And Robert Hunt, a solid right guard, probably one of the maybe at least top 12 in the league. But Liam Eichenberg and Austin Jackson have been absolute liabilities up front. So it doesn't matter if it's a guard, it doesn't matter if it's a tackle. Whatever's best of those two positions available, that's what I think you have to go. So I just have O-line as their top draft need. A couple names that I've seen them mocked, guys. This is not just a wish list. I have seen them mocked to the Dolphins in multiple drafts. DeJuan Jones, who we put in our first round.
Wow.
I think it was either Brugler or...
He's a great player.
No, it was Todd McShay who put DeJuan Jones with the Dolphins in his second
51.
two-round mock. Anton Harrison, who we were considering in the first round, a tackle from Oklahoma, could be available at pick 51. So I'm happy with either of those picks. It looks like this is a deep enough tackle class that we could get a tackle. The guard class not looking as good, so I would assume tackle is where they go. That's our top need. We can get a tight end in one of the later picks. It's not that we don't need a tight end at all, but it's not our top.
You're so right. Yeah, you could definitely get like a starting caliber tight end in the third round in this draft. So
right.
I think that's good. And yeah, Durham Smythe is solid. He's a solid tight end too. Again,
great blocking tight end, which is all we need in the Shanahan offense. Mike McDaniel.
No, you know what's interesting about Miami is they're running it back with the same running back room. No pun intended. So I think they're that's an interesting conversation because I know they've been in on certain running backs. Like, did you say they were in on Dalvin Cook?
There were lots of reports that they were in negotiations and couldn't come up with the proper compensation. I think so you have to remember this, the running back value in the Shanahan offense. They have repeatedly, unless it's a guy like Christian McCaffrey, they have gone with the later round running backs. Yeah. And the fact that Mostert, Jeff Wilson, even Myles Gaskin, they know this offense. There's no need to bring somebody in. Blocking is more important than the running back talent, unless it's a truly elite running back. Dalvin Cook, when he's healthy, still has that elite, so I can see if they got him cheap, but I don't expect them to spend a high draft pick. Could they spend a fourth or fifth round on a developmental guy? Absolutely. It wouldn't surprise me if they do.
Yeah, great
but I also think they're perfectly happy running out Mostert and Wilson. They had one of the best offenses in the NFL last year when Tua was healthy. Yeah, with the running backs that were already on the roster.
I wouldn't be at all mad if they didn't add a running back. I just think that right now you're looking at the same ceiling as they had last year. I don't know if you would be interested.
That's a pretty high ceiling, though. They were actually higher in efficiency than the Chiefs' offense.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but Wilson and Mostert both
Anderson too.
Are they're
we both... did. That's right. We got extra wide receiver depth.
Yes,
Cedric Wilson is still technically on the roster, but we might be trading him.
I would feel like there might be diminishing returns with that running back room given their health. Mostert, you didn't have him for the playoff game. You needed him. I think Mostert plays I'm not saying.
Like I said, I think they should draft a running back. I just don't think it should be probably not until at fourth round at the earliest.
But you're totally right. I think interior offensive line or offensive line in general is a great call. And
I'd be fine if they went like offensive line.
Yeah,
just
honestly,
keep throwing those darts until you hit, because yes, you need to keep Tua alive. You need to keep him non-concussed.
Yeah.
And this offense was flying when he was healthy. I'd like to see that happen again.
Flying is a great word for it. They are a fantastic offense. Cole's All Sports Channel. We did cover the Colts earlier.
Let's repeat it. We got somebody. You come in the chat and you ask us questions. Yeah. We are happy to answer them for you.
I think they need a quarterback.
Quarterback is the big one, and forward we're looking at Richardson.
They also need a.
So I will repeat. I had the Colts. We each, Cole, if you just joined, we each split up of the 16 AFC teams, and I had the Colts. Jimmy is a diehard Colts fan. So he weighed in. I actually like Anthony Richardson for them at 4. Whether it's Will Levis or even if CJ Stroud falls, I like the ceiling and even the floor that an athletic running quarterback like Richardson can offer them, specifically with Shane Steichen. Jimmy mentioned that they've had these kind of Stone Age pony type quarterbacks with your Rivers, with your Wentz, going all the way back to Manning.
It's crazy.
Right, so you need a next stage quarterback. You have a head coach now who was an offensive coordinator who has worked with a Justin Herbert, who has worked with a Jalen Hurts. You need that kind of next level. So unless Bryce Young falls, which he's not going to, I think far and away quarterback's the top need, and I would personally draft Anthony Richardson if he's there at 4.
I will say we do need a lot of people. We do need a lot of positions. Offensive line was a struggle last year. Quarterback, we lost some help there with Stephon Gilmore being traded. I mean, the defensive back room, the safeties.
Receivers are okay.
I mean, there's a lot going on.
I like Pierce. I actually really like Alec Pierce.
They brought in Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah,
I love him.
I like Jelani Woods. You got McKenzie, Pittman. Yeah. He may not be a top 10 wide receiver, but he's a solid wide receiver. I think
he's very good. Yeah.
You still have Jonathan Taylor. Like, you've got pieces, but none of it matters if you don't have quarterback.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Definitely. So there you go, Cole. Welcome.
Any other questions? We're about to wrap up the show, but if we get questions in the chat, we will keep this rolling.
Absolutely. Hour 30 strong, boys. That's how we roll.
Thanks for the question, Cole. We'll always appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man.
If we had a quick plug, we did a live mock on Friday between Kevin and I, and who did we put the Colts with?
Richardson.
We did. We gave Anthony Richardson to him at 4.
Because it went Young, Stroud, the really good edge.
Will Anderson with the Cardinals at 3.
And then Richardson, yeah.
Did you guys have Jalen Carter go 5 or later?
8 to the Falcons.
8 to the Falcons.
8 to the Falcons.
And Bijan Robinson has been kind of linked to the Falcons a lot recently.
He has.
Did you guys see that?
As a Tyler Algier owner in both my dynasty leagues, who also has the 101, I want Bijan to go to a team that I don't have a starting running back for already.
If Bijan goes to the Falcons, that's tough. That is a really tough pill for your Algier stock.
But honestly, amazing landing spot for Bijan. A team that wants to run first and foremost, amazing landing spot. I personally don't want to see it happen.
We're gonna have to do, maybe on a legit headline on Friday, we're gonna have to do our Bijan landing spots, love, hate.
All of them.
I would love to cover that. That would be really.
It'd be like 20 teams.
He's gonna be a grenade for us current starting running back. He's gonna. I'm terrified for Ramondre. I actually sold Ramondre recently. I packaged Ramondre Plus and got Saquon recently because I don't want to be holding the bag. I don't want to be holding the bag.
All right. It's over an hour and a half. No other questions have come in. Let's go ahead and wrap up the show. We have to keep Jimmy entertained.
I feel for him.
It's 8:36. I was gonna East Coast.
I've had a long day.
Washed.
All right, shout out to Anthony for putting together our Wheel of Team Destiny, Enlightened, Amazing Dreamscape, whatever you want to call it. We did our top AFC needs. We will be back on Friday. Kevin will have Adrian Revito, our regular Friday co-host from Australia. We'll do the top NFC team draft needs. And then I think next Monday, Kevin, we're going to do another mock. We're going to do a live mock, and we're going to do it. So Jimmy, I'm putting you on notice now. We'll do a live mock. Next Monday, we're going to do a live mock with trades, first rounds. We'll do the randomizer for the order.
Okay,
So come up with your big board.
Yeah.
So make sure to stay
Live
tuned.
mock,
Armand,
trades.
always nice to see you in the chat. I'm sure you'll be there ready for our top NFC needs, as well as hell yeah, another mock. Armand says, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
I tried to change it out to mock, and Anthony put good job, Anthony, back up.
Armand,
He's just letting that stick.
You better believe that if I am the GM of the Jets next Monday, I will be consulting with you for our pick.
Yeah, we're gonna mix a
better
be
believe
the GM and live mock for
That's
next
gonna
Monday's
be-
episode.
dude.
It
we
might
gotta go-
might be 2 hours. Just warning everybody involved.
Bro, absolutely.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna throw on some. I'm gonna make sure I have some restroom accommodations in the room for that one. I'm gonna pull a
Have a
what's
pee
his
cup.
name?
Have a
Scott
pee cup if you
Hansen
need it.
From the
Red zone. Yes, he has a
I'm gonna-
system in place.
I'm gonna deprive myself of water the night before,
Smart.
just so I can.
No, you gotta stay
Dehydrate yourself.
hydrated, man. We talked about that
Yeah.
earlier.
You're
gotta stay in the game.
Oh,
Come
we
on.
full circled
Ugh.
the podcast. We full circled it.
And that is the time when we wrap up the show. Thank you to everybody who popped into the chat. Armand, our number one fan, as always.
Go.
Thank you to all those listening and subscribing. If you are here for the first time, go ahead and subscribe. Hit that like button. We're live every Monday and Friday. We're doing the top 10 NFC on Friday. We're going to do another live mock on Monday with trades. And then, of course, we'll be breaking down the draft as it happens. Don't forget to sign up for the Legit Football newsletter. Thank you to Kevin Phillip Fox, my partner in crime, Jimmy Ray. Check out NFL Stats on Twitter. My name is Brian McFadden. This has been the Legit Football NFL podcast. Have a great week, and we'll see you.